Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Mike, Swish for real in the building. Welcome in. I got my co-host with me, Boogey Bob. Boogey Bob, what's good, man?
Yo, Big Mike. It's good to have Yogi and Big Ken both in the house tonight. So we're going to be talking some hot and fire topics.
Yes, sir. Ken, man, welcome back. Welcome back. How you been?
Man, I've been all right, man. Just trying to fight a little bit of this flu off, man.
Hey, man, I'm glad you joined us. And my guy, Yogi, what's good with you, man?
Man, everything's great, man. Life is really good, man. Really good. It's always great seeing you. It's always a pleasure actually getting an email saying, hey, man, can you come in this week?" I'm like, oh my. See, you
Right.
can get happy about winning the lottery, not me. I just want to come on the show.
That's a salute to you, man. I appreciate it. Man, I know y'all been figuring out what's going on in the All-Star selection. We got the reserves finally done, and everybody's ready to go. Yo, you had a chance to look at the first of all the starters, man. Then you can talk about the reserve. What are your thoughts on these starters? And is it there are some people that should have been there and some people that shouldn't have been there?
Okay, see, okay, I'm so anxious for this one. Okay, the problem that the NBA is having a transition problem. They're trying to get the old blood and the new blood in at the same time. The old
Mm,
blood, there is a lot of what they call it, reputation. The NBA has people in the All Star game based off of reputation because they were the old, the old stars, the LeBrons. Not to say that the names don't sell tickets for the All Star game, but they do. But you got to get players like LaMelo Ball, some of the young Devin Booker. You got to get those players in the game. Even more so. As much as I want to see Kyrie in it, I really want to see LaMelo Ball in it because he helps the transition of the game. You need to get some of those older players out and some of the new dynamic players in so the NBA can make the transition, man. I think it was David Booker needed to be as much as I hate him as a player. I hate him, but I think he deserves to be in the All Star game, just like Kyrie. I think LaMelo Ball deserves to be in. I just think the NBA is having a difficult time trying to figure out if we're going to hold on to the older players and embrace the newer players. Uh, and I think once they get that part figured out, then I think the people that are supposed to make it will make it, and they'll push some of the older people out of it.
So it's more of a popularity match as far as the
Absolutely.
NBA is going now. Because I thought it was the fan who selected the All Stars.
You thought who?
The fans.
Oh yeah, well they do, but for example, a lot of the I seem like I remember past years where a lot of the players were hurt and they were getting all of the votes. I think a lot of the Euro players get a lot of. I know if Luca had been in the city, he would have made the All Star game, but they couldn't find him. They couldn't find his name on the ballot. That's the reason he didn't make it. But I think it's a popularity contest. Powell for the Clippers should have made it. He's been solid
Mm.
all year. I just think we have to do a better job of giving the players credit that deserve it, and we got to figure out a back door to let those guys in the game.
All right, so I'm gonna give you the West Conference starters, and then I'm gonna give you Eastern Conference starters. So you tell me which one of these players you would take off in the West and the East. So
All
the
right, let's
starters.
go. I'm ready to yank them. Let's go.
Here's the starters for the West. You just take one off, and who would you replace him with? So
Steph
you got
Curry. Steph
Steph
Curry.
Curry,
Steph
huh?
Curry. Get him
Steph
out.
Curry,
Get him out.
take
Steph,
him up.
Steph is one of the greatest of all times, man. He really is. But he didn't. I don't think he played well enough to be on the All Star game, man. I love me some Steph, man. But if we got to figure out what we want the criteria to be. We want you to be the most popular, or we want you to be the most dynamic on the team. What the stat where your team is. We got to figure out
Mhm.
what we want the criteria to be. And I think when we get that part figured out, it'll be easier to say, hey, well, Steph, LeBron, you didn't make it. Because I know we've had LeBron on some teams that were bad, and he still made it. So we got to figure that part of it out. Then that way,
Mhm.
when somebody said they want Steph off the team, it won't seem blasphemous. Because right now, it sounds funny for me to say it. Steph not being on the team, and he's the greatest shooter of all time. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, I'm off. I'm off my tangent. I'm off.
All right, so now you got to tell me about the East. So the East, you got Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Karl Anthony Towns, Giannis, Darius Garland, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brown, Pascal Siakam, Evan Mobley.
Pascal Siakam.
Pascal?
Siakam. What are you doing? Why? As a matter of fact, you better go get on the plane right now because your ticket is going to be revoked. You have no business in the All-Star game. Get out of here. Listen, I understand we need some size. We need some players at that position. But Pascal Siakam is not an All-Star. Get out of here.
Who would you replace with?
I don't know. Well, it's funny.
In that position.
It's funny because I was thinking East and West. If you give me something, I can come up with somebody. Either somebody
from Miami.
Either somebody from Cleveland or Boston. Because you got
two already in 3. Yeah, they got Donovan, they got Darius, and they got Mobley.
Why not Bam? Why not Bam out of bounds? Why not Bam? Because Bam does everything for Miami. I mean everything. He unpacks the bags on the plane. He takes the plane. Bam flies the plane. He does everything for them in Miami. He does everything. He should make All-Star. And how you not gonna put him on and you gonna put the guy with the Pacer guy on? How you gonna do that? Rick Carlisle must know somebody. Because there was no way that guy's out. There was no way he's supposed to be an All-Star, man.
Nah,
how is Trae Young not an All-Star? He don't have to be starting. He's supposed to be in the building. If it's the popularity contest, how do we not get that young blood like him and LaMelo Ball in there? Please, somebody help me understand. How do we not get the young players like that in? Because the league needs them. The league and because we're trying to make that transition, and we need those young players to make the transition. Am I crazy? Just tell somebody here, like, am I crazy? Am I crazy?
Now, I understand your point when it comes to transition, for sure. I agree with that, but I still think it should be based on how they perform, stats-wise, as well as if they're the MVP of their team in general.
Well, yeah, but if that was the case, then you still. I think the roster still would be skewed. I still think we would have Kyrie would have made it. He's up. He averaged 24 points a game, and he's when the big guy went out on his team, he still kept his team relevant. Man, that has to count for something. You know, I'm just having a hard time figuring out what the criteria is, man. It seems like they change the goalpost or move the goalpost every year according to how they want the players to be.
Thanks. Bob, your thoughts on this, man? I know there's been a lot of talk about Kyrie not getting in there as being a snub, but there's a lot of snubs that I can talk about. What are your thoughts on as far as the West and the East go when it comes to these All-Star votes? Who would you take off?
Well, first of all, I think that's the most words I've heard Yoggi say in a while. He's on fire, man. He might have to get on the Fiyah show. Like, he's on fire. And this one just for you, Yoggi, because it kind of goes with what you're saying, trying to make the All-Star game more attractive. It's like maybe they ought to have the OG versus the YG. The old guns versus the young guns. Not the rising stars, but
how would you determine the age factors in that?
Yeah, have 6 players from the old guard. That way you can have your LeBrons and Steph Currys and those people that people have known for years. And then have 6 young guns.
What's the age
and divide up the reserves same way. So I agree with Yoggi. Like you got to have the transition. You know, they had a transition from Magic, Michael, and Bird. But you know, you got to give the young guy it. At some point, LeBron's going to quit playing, and if they don't hand the league over to the young guys, like Yoggi's saying, then so I agree with it. But how about a young guns versus old OG instead of an all-star game? What do you think about that, Yoggi?
I think if you made more than 3 all-star games, tentatively 4, I think you qualify as an OG. I think anything under that, I think will be considered a young player. So that's how I would kind of deal with it.
10 years or more in the league, or over 35, and make it a 3-on-3. Make it a 3-on-3, and then have 3 young guns, 6 players.
Whoa! I was with you all the way up until you said 3-on-3. You're gonna run them old guys out of the gym.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Make the old guys look old.
Yeah.
Well, I have a list for the East and the West. So hopefully I leave some meat on the table here for Ken. The All-Stars for the East. Number one on the list, LaMelo Ball. How can you not have LaMelo Ball as an All-Star? Last year, the second player, he was in the top 5 for MVP last year. He's not even on the team. Jalen Brunson.
He's on the team, no?
Oh, he's starting. Jalen Brunson starting, I think.
Yeah, he's starting for the Knicks.
Did he get voted in? Because when I looked this morning, I didn't see his name on there.
Yeah,
I saw Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson is on there.
Yeah, he's a starter.
As a guard.
No, not Jalen Brown. Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson is a starter.
Okay. Then Tyrese Halliburton, as Yoggi was pointing out.
But to him, I don't know well, this year he hasn't did what he did last year, because last year he was killing it, man. You know what I mean? I don't know why they put him on this season, because he's not really having the same season he had last year.
But you got players that got voted in this year living off of last year's reputation. And then my favorite player from Dallas, Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
And then homeboy from Oklahoma. I just pulled this one up because it was on ESPN. I don't really career statistics. He's shooting a better percentage, but I think he's got buried on the team that he's playing on. But Trae Young, statistically speaking, is having his best season, but he's not getting the publicity that he had got previously. So that's how I had in the East. And if he had played enough games, one of your favorite players, Monchero.
Hello.
Definitely an all-star. So he'll be there. On the West, it's guard loaded pretty much. Kyrie, definitely. I agree with Yoggi there. I think Ja Morant, maybe the publicity from the previous years, but Ja's having a good year. Jamal Murray's having a down year, but he's still helping Denver. Sabonis and DeRozan for Sacramento, I don't know why they got left off. But my underdog is Powell. Norman Powell's having a career year. He's single-handedly keeping the Clippers, him and Harden are keeping the Clippers afloat.
But their center, Zach, what's his name? Zeke, what is his name? He's actually having a great year too.
Yeah, Powell's he's over 20 points a game, averaging over 20 points a game. So that one of the interesting statistics, 7 of the top 15 scorers in the league did not make the All-Star.
Yeah.
7 of the top 15. I don't know if that's a record, but I was reading that earlier that 7 out of 15 top scorers in the league didn't make the. I'll turn it over to Mr. Ken. I'm sure he's got some counterpoints there on players.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing I wanted to look at is how they do the voting. So you got 25% fans, 25% players, and then 25% media. I mean, 50% media. So that's kind of why it is, kind of wonky the way it is, because they allow, the voting to go that way. And yeah, it is a popularity contest. And also, what I was going to point out too is you were pointing out with Norman Powell. If you look at his stats, he's averaging, I think, right around 24 a game. But there's like 10 to 12 guys averaging right around 24 a game. So it comes down to they got similar numbers. Who's going to put butts in the seats and who do people like more? So there you go. That's how they've been deciding this. So the NBA is just like any other sports. It's a cash machine. You know what I'm saying? They know it's guys like Siakam that make the team, and you're like, why? Because I mean, when you look at the game, please tell me that you want to see him dribbling, doing anything. Nobody wants to see that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody wants to see. You don't tune into a game to say, "Hey, I want to see what I want to see what Siakam's going to do." Nobody's looking for that. So there are guys like that who are going to make it, and rightfully so. He's a hard nosed player. He gives 100%. He's a two-way player, which those are rare in this league, to actually be a great two-way player. But yeah, I think the biggest snub to me, well, I'll say two snubs that everybody kind of mentioned everything that was on my list, but LaMelo and Sabonis were my two biggest ones because I think they really have grown leaps and bounds. And I think Sabonis has shown year after year that he is a great player, and he just continues to get looked over.
So, Ken, did you hear that De'Aaron Fox is now demanding a trade?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think the organization, I don't think it's the players. I think it's the management up top, that the players and the management are not aligned anymore, and he's trying to get out of there before it collapses.
So if you had to take someone off the Eastern and the Western conferences, though, who would you take off as far as the West and the East go?
I mean, the East, off the top of my head, Siakam got to go. I mean, that's an easy one for me. And the West is a little bit harder because they have quite honestly, those are bigger name guys, and guys that you used to being there on there every year. But Steph, Steph is one of those names that was like, he kind of you kind of could move him, and people will probably be upset because he's a fan favorite, but there are probably more deserving guys who could have had that spot.
Mm.
So, Ken, let me ask you this, since you did bring it up about the marketing. How many of these players get voted in because there's jersey sales for All-Stars, and everybody loves to have a Stephen Curry jersey? Is that a factor of him being an All-Star, that they're going to sell more jerseys?
Oh yeah, jersey, shoes, advertising, because you got to keep in mind that anytime you have like All-Star game, Super Bowl, things of that nature, you're gonna have advertising. So with these guys being in commercials, yeah, they want to have that guy in the game and on the commercials, so the two work hand in hand. So yeah, it's it's a lot of interweaving behind the scenes that I think people don't pay attention to, that goes into the decision making with who's on these teams.
It makes a lot of sense. But say if it comes down to finances and jersey sales and all that good, it does make sense to have the most popular players on there. But like Yogi said, Saskow, Siakam, I don't know how they got him on there. I was just like, hey, it doesn't make sense. But it is what it is. Bob, so now we're gonna move on to the next topic. Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard it. Yeah, the commissioner had a conversation on the Dan Patrick show. I think it was yesterday. I seen the show, maybe the day before, and he was talking about the Euro League, how they have um, the quarters shortened down to 10 minutes a game. How would that affect the NBA in general? Because my opinion is that they're trying to broaden the league and take teams, well, create teams out of Europe and bring them into the NBA in general. Your thoughts on that, Bob, is about maybe shortening the league to 10 minutes a quarter.
You know, I don't remember who said it after last year's game. Uh, they said the reason they don't play defense is because nobody want to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt in an All-Star game. Uh, I applaud Commissioner Silver for trying to do something, because 181 to 179, that's just a shooting contest. To me, it's an attempt to draw viewership for the All-Star game has been sagging. The dunk contest has lost a little bit of its flavor. People tune in for the 3-point shot. last year they tuned in for Sabrina Ionesco versus Stephen Curry, the 3-point shooting. So I think the new is to try to foster some competition, make the games look a little bit competitive. But when it comes down to it, they don't get paid enough. They get paid more for the end season tournament than they do for the All-Star game. And max contracts are no longer determined by how many All-Star appearances, how many all NBA teams you make. So from a financial incentive, uh, you a few years ago, there are like 3 or 4 players that set out a game or two before the All-Star game. They had a mysterious injury, and they set out the All-Star game. So I think that's a legitimate concern from the players that they honestly want to avoid an injury. You come down wrong and land on somebody's foot, you twist an ankle, and if your team's fighting for a play-in spot and your star player goes down because he got hurt in an All-Star game, uh, to find it, the new the new president that the Mavs hired, I was reading he was the one that actually came up with All-Star Weekend, but it doesn't have the flash and dash. And from a player's perspective, they're going to play harder for that in season $500,000 uh, pool than they are for, I don't know what they got paid for the All-Star game, but I know it's less. So I just that it's viewership, as Ken alluded to, and players just don't want to get hurt.
Gotcha. Now, if you think about it as far as a season game, 10-minute halves or 10-minute quarters, would that be beneficial for the league to change that from where it is now?
I think you could probably combine the All-Star game with the end season tournament, shift the dates a little bit, and you'd have a much bigger event. For the fans, All-Star, it's about see and be seen. Your Jack Nicholsons and
Mhm.
Jerry Joneses and Mark Cubans, they want to be seen. I do like the rising stars versus the rookies, but you could probably shift the schedule somewhat so that the end season tournament and the All-Star break went hand in hand, same time.
But in regards to regular season games, do you think a 10-minute quarter will be beneficial or no?
I think they'll tune out like they did last year.
You're talking about as far as the regular season thing? Like, say, for instance, Mavs versus Detroit right now. If the quarters were 10 minutes, would it be beneficial for the league to watch the game? Well, the participants, or not participants, but the patrons, would they
And
benefit from watching 10-minute quarters?
the average fan's not going to notice much of a difference between 4 quarters that are 12 minutes and 4 separate games that are 10 minutes. You know, what's going to keep their interest is the no look behind the back pass that Magic used to make, and the sky dunk, and the throw it off the backboard so another teammate can, or like when Trae Young and Luka were at half court and he encouraged him to try a half court shot. It's the ESPN highlight stuff that the fans tune in for.
Gotcha. Ken, if you had an opportunity to talk to the commissioner about his thought process of possibly changing quarters for regular season games to 10-minute quarters, what were your thoughts, or what would you say to him? And could you give him an input on if that is a good change or not? And as far as the way I think he's trying to mimic the European league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with it. Shorten the time, you pack more, action into a shorter frame, and probably going to get about the same result because people are still going to tune in, people are still going to watch it. And the only problem with that is when you come come to the point where you're looking at stats and records and things like that, people are going to point to that as something that moves the needle one way or the other. Okay, well, in this at this point they were playing this many minutes in a quarter, and now they're playing this many minutes. So that's the reason why this guy is not in this range of points, because they shorten the games and so on and so forth. So, that's why, again, when we talk about the difference between errors, we shouldn't do that. Right? You should just compare errors, you know what I'm saying, at guys that played against each other in those times, because as the eras changed, the rules have changed a little bit. Things have, small things have changed, and those small things have made big, big dividends in, stats and big changes and things like that. So, I think it's a good idea. And I don't think the fans, quite honestly, I don't think the fans are gonna notice a difference. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts.
I agree. I don't think they'll notice either, man. I think they're not gonna lose any money at all. Just like what Bob mentioned, it's just about seeing the game in general. The highlights is what they really come here for. Yogi, your thoughts on this possible thought process and the commissioner bringing it down to 10 minutes of quarter?
Well, I think it's like everything else. The ticket prices isn't going to go down $5, $10, $15. As a matter of fact, it might go up. The bar soap ain't getting no bigger. They cut the middle out of it, and you still pay the same price for it. So I think it's like anything else. You reduce the time and yet try to keep the same value, but people are gonna be paying. I don't think the average fan would think twice about it. All we gonna do is look to Sports Center and see who got dunked on and who got killed, and look at the sports, the schools and stuff like that. But I do believe this though. We're always, because we're having a really difficult time as sports people trying to figure out who's the best, what eras is the best. Well, I think Jordan, I think this, I think that we have a difficult time. And I think this creates, and I have to agree, this creates another element of, okay, because everybody wants to be a part of their element, wants to think their element is the best. And I think there's something to be said for that. So I'm not even sure I would go 10 minutes. I might go 11 minutes. I might bring it down a notch to see if anybody noticed, to see if there was anything before I would go a whole 10. Just to kind of view the landscape, to see how things see what the scoring was like. Because regardless of whether they're paying 10 minutes or 12 minutes, nobody wants a 95 to 96 game. Nobody wants a game under 100 points. Everybody wants the games over 100 points. So I would bring it down. I would do 11 minutes to kind of see what the score, what it was like. But I actually think if you decrease the time, the product may get better. I don't know if I that's the oxymoron, but I do. I think people would. It just seems like sometimes the third quarters are long. It just seems like if y'all could just make it through the third, the fourth will fly by. But the third quarter seemed long, and I think that would decrease that.
The only thing I would think of is, of course, the shot clock. What would be the difference? Will they have to increase the shot clock if they lower the amount of time in the quarter? You know what I'm saying?
Well, what if they
Yeah.
went to? What if they went to 20 seconds, 18
Nah,
seconds? What if they
I
went
don't
to?
I don't think you want to increase the speed of the game. You know what I'm saying? Cut the shot clock down, because I mean, to be quite honest with you, they already playing rec ball anyway in today's NBA. It's basically a bunch of transition basketball. Only certain teams you see a bunch of half court sets. Most of these guys just want to get in transition, and that's where you see a lot of the scoring going on is in transition. So I don't think you should change the shot clock. Just make you change to you know what I'm saying, the overall time in the quarters, and let the chips fall where they may.
You talk about playground basketball. What about if they made it a make it take it? You played half court and it was make it take it.
then they probably will have a problem with the big three, and it's probably going to be some lawsuits going on, because now you're infringing on their territory.
As far as the make it take it, that'd be dope though.
Yeah, but that's you got to look at the formatting. See, so when you start doing stuff like that and you start marketing stuff, a league, or a sanctioned game like that, then you got to look at Big Three and what they do, it's kind of close. So, the big three, the NBA had issues with Ice Cube and the big three for years and what they were doing. So, they kind of still do. But, Ice Cube was able to navigate that. And, now the big three is a pretty big brand. And people love going to those games. But I don't think the NBA would do anything like that, man.
Nah, that would be dope though, because that's how we used to play. Dang. Now trades so coming up, man. The trade deadline is coming up pretty fast this coming week, and there's a couple of teams that I want to discuss: Dallas, Chicago, and Utah. What trades? And let's go with Utah first, and we'll end with Dallas last. What trades do you think would benefit Utah and as far as the position, and what players should they target for that position?
Who do you want to go first?
Utah is the team we're talking about.
Okay. My personal feeling is that Dallas should stay put. Uh, any trades they make is just temporary. But what I first wrote is that Dallas is under the cap, and them being under the cap, there are certain different restrictions as far as how much money they can take back or push out. Uh, so there's an advantage to being under the cap, but there's also a restriction. So that restricts their movement. And I've read where since Nico's taken over, he's made 7 trades, three at the deadline the last 3 years in a row. But their only real trade assets are 2025 first round pick and the 2031 first round pick. They got a second round pick from Denver in the move they made a few weeks ago. Uh, they're treading water until they can get healthy, till at least Luka can get healthy. So for Dallas, whatever trade they make, I think they'd be giving up more than they should to get the player they want. They talk about a wing, but weather the storm. For Chicago, you got to get rid of Zach LaVine. His contract's an albatross.
Well, they're
They're
talking about trading him to Golden State possibly. That's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, he's like 43, 44 million. And it's not just an expiring contract, it's like the next 3 years. So whatever team trades him is going to have an expensive player like Jimmy Butler or, even DeRozan's not that high. But, they've been bringing Zach LaVine off the bench and he's having some good numbers this year. But Chicago's in that no man's land. They're barely good enough to try to make the play in, but they're not bad enough to get a good high lottery pick. So he's your biggest asset. See if you can't flip him and get some future assets coming in. And then for Utah, very similar situation. They traded with Cleveland when Donovan Mitchell went there in draft picks, and they got Lauri Markkanen, who had played at Chicago and Cleveland, hadn't done much, and then he explodes in Utah. And they have Jordan Clarkson. So Markkanen's not quite as old. He's in his late 20s, late 20s. Clarkson, I think, is like 31, 32. So, Utah needs to decide, are we going, they've got a lot of draft capital. New York had more, but I think Oklahoma City and one other team, the only team that had more draft capital than Utah. So you can't fit that many rookies on one team. And so that at some point they're going to do like Oklahoma City and consolidate all that draft capital. But, Markkanen and Clarkson for somebody that's a title contender that wants that, either that starter or that sixth man person that can come off the bench. The Utah needs to make up their mind. Do they want to rebuild and go ahead and tear it the rest of the way down, or just hang on and into the middle? So I expect that's what Miami's going to end up with. I've heard rumors that Sacramento's looking at moving DeRozan and Fox
Yeah,
to Miami for Butler, and Miami doesn't have a whole lot of draft capital either. But you know, Utah with that draft capital, you got two really nice players that can bring in some young bloods and maybe can consolidate some of those first round picks that you've got. But as for Dallas, I'm hoping they just stay put because
I agree
the
with that.
2025 first round pick, it's going to have some value now, but on draft night, it's going to have a lot more value whether they make the playoffs or not.
Makes sense. Yogi, your thoughts on Dallas, Utah, Chicago? What does Utah need to do as far as trades go? Should they stay put or should they move? I'm not a big fan of marketing for whatever reason, but I would definitely use him as a trade piece.
I think. Well, I think they should. You know, it's funny. A lot of times I've seen teams kind of do this where when the star player goes out and then Kyrie's in and out of the lineup, you actually see what you really get, and it gives the other players on the team a chance to get more touches and to get into their rhythms. Because we're kind of seeing Clay do that a little more, get into his rhythm, kind of find his way. Because it's hard when you got guys that I love some Luka, but Luka takes the air out of the ball a lot of times, and it's when your star goes out, it thinks it makes it easier for other players to come in off the bench to get more touches, to find a rhythm, and to become more valuable to you as the season goes on. When you get in the playoffs, now we know we can count on this guy to do this, and we know he can do that. Because that's how Boston did. I mean, Boston just developed those guys. Those guys are wow. Those guys are really good. I think all money is not good money, but money is not good money. But I'm really curious about this Jimmy Butler thing. If Jimmy Butler went to Memphis, man, dude, boy. But this is the thing about Jimmy. I'm scared of Jimmy. I'm scared of Jimmy because I think Jimmy's best years have went by, and I think Jimmy may have a little left in the tank, and I think his mouth has way more left than Jimmy actually does, and I think Pat Riley understands that, and he's trying to tell the league without telling the league, hey, Jimmy's doing way more talking than he's doing playing. And so I think if he goes to a team like Memphis to where they don't need a whole lot from Jimmy. They just need Jimmy to do a little bit. I think he could be really good in Memphis. I'm not sure about Golden State. Golden State is gonna be pulling on. You don't need to go anywhere to where they're gonna be like, Jimmy, you're here. We need 25 a night. I can't give you 25 a night. I can give you that this night. I'm gonna take a week off and give you that. I think I just don't think our money is good money, man. I think because the trades are out there, especially with Zach, it's just something you stay away from. It's the reason why Zach is always available because Zach hadn't lived up to his contract. You know what's funny? It's funny. As soon as guys sign those big deals, the guy in New Orleans, Ingram, as soon as they get those big deals, immediately their name keeps coming up for trades because that organization realized they made a mistake. And then you want other teams to come in and help save you. You gonna eat those contracts because nobody's coming in to get those contracts. It's the reason why those names always come up. It's the reason for it, man. So I wouldn't Zach, Ingram, all them guys they're talking about, lead them guys right where they are. I don't think Dallas needs to touch none of that, man. I think we need to stay where we are. We're doing a good job. If we can just get Luka back in here sometime soon. My understanding he's supposed to be back before a couple of games before the All-Star break. And if we can get him and get the team back rolling, I think we're in a good spot. Actually, I think we did a really good job of trading water while he was out. Really surprised because I thought they would be under the boat by now. But yeah, I would stay good. And I think like with Utah needs to decide what they're going to do. I echo what you're saying. They need to decide whether or not they're going to be all in as far as winning, or we throwing everybody overboard. Everybody got a leg in the water and a leg in the boat anyway. Throw them on off the boat. They half in, half out anyway. You do. And one thing about the West, you got to be all in or all out, and you still may lose. That's the crazy thing about it with the West. The West is so competitive, man. Everybody has to be on the same page. Sacramento is the perfect example of it. Sacramento was all in, then they were all out, then they were all in, and they still barely get by. So so I guess with that, now as far as trade, whether or not you're gonna trade Fox, I think Fox will be great in LA. I just don't, man. It's just LeBron is a
LA Clippers or LA Lakers?
the LA Lakers. I just
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. I just don't know if he can play with LeBron. I just don't, man, dude. It sounds good when you put it on paper. It's like, oh man, it looks good. I just don't know if he can play with LeBron. You got to be a special guy to play with LeBron, man. You really do. That's enough. I'm talking enough.
De'Aaron Fox in LA is D'Lo. It's the same. It's gonna be the same person. It's gonna be D'Lo all over again because their games are really similar. If you really look at it, they do a lot of the same things, and the same way that D'Lo couldn't coexist with LeBron, it's gonna be the same thing because Swiper needs the ball. De'Aaron Fox needs the ball, and if LeBron's got it all the time, he's not gonna have it. He's gonna have to play off the ball, and that's not gonna work.
And Ken, as far as the place goes, Utah, Callard, is it Sexton? What's his first name?
Yeah, Colin Sexton.
He's a good player. And what could he go in regards if like what Yoggi said, if everybody just get pushed off the ship? Who would want to take him on? And I don't think in my opinion, he's not a starter. He's a very good bench player. Who would be beneficial to pick up that kid?
Send him to Orlando.
But they guard heavy in Orlando.
Nah, not him. Not that type of guard that he is. I think he'll be a good fit with them.
But don't Orlando seem like it's basketball purgatory though? Orlando has. It just seems like every year they come Orlando. Oh, they're gonna be this, and they always that plane comes in. Well, maybe I shouldn't say plane, but they come. but the team come in. They just like they fade every year, man.
I think they've just been suffering from injuries every year. They just been hit by the injury bug. I mean, when your best guy gets injured, it's kind of hard to recover from that, right? And it's not like they're a stacked team. So I think they have enough talent there, enough young guys there, enough talent that if he goes there and he's had enough, play time under his belt, I think he can really help a team like that. Because again, if you look at Sexton's game, I wouldn't qualify him as a two-way player, but he does get after it on defense too. So I think he could possibly change the mentality of that team as well because they're a young team.
And to your point, Russell Westbrook was pretty much same player as D'Lo, even before that. But one of the things I was reading was De'Aaron Fox wants to play with Wembanyama.
Oh yeah, I heard him talking about San Antonio. I heard that come up. Not bad though. Not bad.
Nah, yeah, that's definitely a good combo.
Yeah, because if you got a guy that wants to always go to the hole, a suspect 3-point shot, but loves the rim, he'd have the pick and pop, the pick and roll. How you going to guard that twosome between Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox?
Well, and not only that though, but man, with San Antonio being a small market like it is, of course they've won before, but man, that'd be great for the league if he wants to to San Antonio.
Makes sense. As far as Chicago goes, who would you trade off that team, or do they get rid of more than one? Because I think White, he's a good trade piece because he's been really playing. He's underrated in my opinion. People are not really paying attention to him. What are your thoughts, Ken, as far as Chicago? What trades should they be making?
Well, I think everybody wants Nikola Vujic. Everybody wants him. So I think that's probably going to be the piece they move because they can get the most value out of it and they can get the most back for it for that guy. He's not a bad player, but again, he's not a great player either. So
wasn't it the same thing when he was in Orlando? Did everybody want him when he was in Orlando?
And to say, and kind of the same thing what you were mentioning earlier, and I tell people this all the time. I try to pay close attention to these guys when they get moved around and what systems they're playing in, because you have certain guys that keep getting shifted around and the systems that they're playing in aren't for their play style. So yeah, they're not going to have success. They're not going to play their best basketball because they keep getting put in systems because of a team's need for that position, but they don't have the guy that they think, you know what I'm saying, that really fits that position to the fullest. So they just get the next best thing. And sometimes they don't cut it, right? You know what I'm saying? And then also the coaching. Like we were talking about with Jimmy in Miami. Miami's a tough environment, dog. You know, we hear the stories about Pat Riley and how he likes things run. You know, we know that's Spoelstra's team, but we also know who really runs the show. So, you know, it's a different monster there. So, you know, and I think that, you know, Jimmy runs his mouth and Jimmy likes to say things and Pat ain't going for it. So, you know, it's just as simple as that. And he just ran its course. So it's time for him to move on. But I think Jimmy does have a little bit in the tank, maybe a year or two of good basketball. He definitely won't play a full season. So if you could keep him halfway healthy throughout the season and, you know, make sure he's ready to go for playoffs, you might have something. Whoever gets a chance to pick him up. And like you mentioned earlier, him going to somewhere like a Memphis, that would be a good fit for him and his play style and what they already have on both sides of the ball because they already play great defense. So to add another defender who can also score will definitely, you know what I'm saying, improve their team leaps and bounds and make them, you know, go from where they are to up there in the top teams automatically just by adding him.
Give him a closer as well.
Well, I don't know if you want to give him. I don't know if he would be the closer because with him coming in as a new guy, you know, and Ja being there, and they already have an established, you know what I'm saying, like recourse that they already have. I think that would have to be a discussion. But, you know, just with him having the experience again, he could be a closer if, you know what I'm saying, the ball bounced his way and it was his shot to take. But I think that would be a good fit. But you know how those things go. Anytime you think something's a good fit, they probably won't go there.
One of the players that came to mind when you were saying wrong system or coach doesn't unleash them, Aaron Gordon. You know, he was stuck in Orlando and he goes to Denver and Aaron Gordon looks like an all-star. You know, he was a top 5 pick and a lot of expectations. But he goes to Denver, he knows his role and he plays it really well. And he's really exploded. Mike, you were asking about who Chicago should he's been traded that goes along with what Ken said. Vucevic is out there.
So I
And
was gonna say on your point with Aaron Gordon, he looked more like an all-star in Orlando than it does in Denver right now. Because Denver, he's more like the third option in my opinion, but in Orlando, he's the first option.
But
exactly.
he plays the hell out of his role though.
Yeah.
And Denver, he knows what his role is. I think that's what makes him so valuable in Denver, man. You know what you're going to get night in and night out from him. He don't try to be the point guard. He don't try to be the center. He plays his role and plays it well night in night out.
And Ken, before Dallas goes, as far as trade values they have available, I don't think they have much now because they ER for most of the season. So because right now their center position is the one that's really ailing. I don't think they have much to really look forward to in trade value as far as players they have. What are your thoughts on that?
Nah, I think they should stay put. And, you know, if they really want to get, you know, experimental, go get Jamarian Sharp, turn him loose, let him play a couple of games, because you can't teach 7-5. And I actually got a chance to see him when they played at Paul Quinn. I actually got a chance to see him play and stand next to him and talk to him briefly. He is legit 7'5", and he is super long, and the guy's explosive. He's really raw, but you know, hey, 7'5", man, it's you know, so he's worth the experiment if you know what I'm saying, if you just need him.
Now, I agree.
Well, too, for a big guy, he doesn't move clunky. He moves, you know, athletic. It's like Nelly used to say about Sean Bradley, 7'6" is still 7'6". because you can't coach 7'6". So yeah, I like that kid. I watched him in summer league. I don't know why they didn't call him up and sign this other guy.
Nah, facts. He's a really good kid. I like watching him when he played. I think they, as you said, Ken, they should give him that time because if they're gonna need that fill those holes, because Max is gonna be out for the remainder of the season. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Powell. And then Lively's been injured, so you got the Kelly in there, and then that guy, then you kind of sort your position as far as the center position goes. Um, I want to go ahead and jump to our move over to our last topic of the day, and I'll give y'all your night back. And this topic, I definitely want to take this one on for sure, and it's Houston. Houston's been like an amazing anomaly right now. They played good last year, but they're playing like a phenomenal this year. And that that kid who has the twin brother in Detroit, those two guys, Thompson or Amon and Ashore, those two kids are balling. Ken, you had an opportunity to watch Houston. What are your thoughts on them? And why have they researched so far? And I think I know the answer, but I wanted you to express how they researched so quickly.
Hey man, good drafting, and they drafted youthful energy. They got a lot of energy guys, a lot of bouncy guys, a lot of young guys that's willing to play defense as well as, put the ball in the hole. If you look across their lineup, everybody plays defense. If you watch their games, everybody plays defense. And it's also, I got to give my hats off to the coach as well. You could see the extension of him on the court because he exudes the same energy, and you see the team, exuding the same energy. So I mean, they've done a good job retooling and getting those guys out there, man, because they had some talent over the years, but you saw a building, and I mean, this is the way the NBA is now. Everybody's young, super young. So if you get these guys that are young, talented, bouncy, and willing to play defense, you got an edge on a lot of other guys because we all know most of these teams don't play defense.
So you attribute the coach and the youthfulness of these guys as the resurgence for Houston.
Yep.
Makes sense. Bob, your thoughts on the resurgence of Houston?
Well, Ken and I, we generally think alike, and then my first two bullet points were exactly that. It starts at the top. They got a new owner, and that new owner selected a GM who's had not one, not two, not three, but four really good drafts. And then he went and got Udoka after Boston let him go. And so from the front office to the coach, you got a structure that is just rock solid. And there's no strife going on from the executive all the way to the coach. And when you have that, the players lock in just straight. Step they Jalen Green, Albert Sagan, Jabari Smith, Cam Whitmore, Omar Rabas, the twin, Omar, I forget his last name, starts with R. That's six quality guys that they've drafted. That's not even getting to some of their second round picks that are that are producing. And Houston is another one that's got a plethora of first round picks. They got several from Brooklyn, from Harden, and they got a few more from Oklahoma City when they did the Westbrook swap with Chris Paul. So they got a plethora of first round picks that they can basically go buy whatever player they want. And they've made, I'm going to call it small trades on the periphery. They went out and traded and didn't spend much. They went out and got Harrison Barnes. And Harrison Barnes, for what he is, but he's a good glue player. He can defend small forward. He can defend power forward. He's got a bigger contract because Sacramento gave him that extension. I have no idea why the Mavericks ever traded him, but he can be streaky, but he's he's just one of those glue players that every team needs, and he's learned what needs to be done. It doesn't always show up in the stat line. So like that trade that Houston made, they didn't pay very much of a price. That basically took on Harrison Barnes' contract and got a draft pick. Like you got a veteran to help all the young guys.
But when did they get Harrison? I thought he was in San Antonio.
I thought he was in San Antonio.
Yeah, he's in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Oh, Harrison Barnes, San Antonio. Well, there's a player that's like Barnes. I can't. Maybe I got the wrong name, but
Unless you're talking about Fred VanVleet.
Well, they got Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet free agents, but there's a small forward that they got that's come in and played. That's kind of like the Harrison Barnes. Maybe that's why I figured it was Harrison. Well, no, he's because they got Thompson guy and they got Jabari Smith playing power forward or small forward and Sagan at power, but he kind of comes in and gives them that glue. And then, as Ken said, they're young and athletic.
Yeah, because Cam Whitmore and Deshaun Tate are two of their forwards that are really good and that get a lot of minutes and that are really productive.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, it's Jabari Smith, man. That's who's been surprising me.
Jabari, and what's funny about that is Orlando had the first pick and everybody had him taking Jabari Smith and they took Banchero. And Houston had the third pick, and took Jabari Smith. I think it's Cam Whitmore, that you mentioned, that they drafted. And that wasn't a trade, but he was a lower first round pick, wasn't he? I mean, he wasn't like just outside of the lottery. It's some of the smaller moves that they've made. That GM has hit on quite a few of those, and they have allowed those rookies to get minutes and grow. Oklahoma City is young too, but Green struggled for a couple years as their point guard. And Sagun, the first year, he broke out last year. Cam Whitmore gets, that turn, that third or fourth year turn that Wild Dog's always talking about. It's like you've got not only just talent, but they're developing their talent and letting their talent grow. And that's the executive and GM and coach that like Ken was pointing to. Udoka had Boston. Did they go to the finals the year he was their coach, or was it just when they lost to the Lakers, or not the Lakers, when they lost in the finals? Was Udoka their coach? Is either a year before or a year after?
I think so. I'm gonna look at it right quick, but I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, this was a hand-picked coach by Brad Stevens, who succeeded Danny Ainge. So he's no slouch, and he's got good assistants. Don't forget, we got a player legacy if we still got time to talk about.
Good deal. I mean, Yoggi, have you had an opportunity to watch Houston play them? Like Kid said, these kids are like dynamic when it comes to defense. And every time I see them play the Mavs, I'm like, it's going to be a tough game. And what is the resurgence factor for you in regards to Houston?
When I see Houston, the first thing I think about is, man, the coach is a lot better than I think everybody gave him credit for. I think because we had the scandals, I think we discredited or discounted how good of a coach he was because Boston was loaded. But they still had to be coached. So I think we didn't give him his due. But man, what amazes me about Houston is you guys are calling their names. I don't really know them like that. I'm just Dallas all the time. But if you put, and I heard Kenny Smith said this last night, if you put a mask on their head, you can't tell them apart because they all look the same. They all look and play the same. Man, they rebound and they play defense like nobody. Dude, they were hitting the board so hard last night. I'm like, dude, Houston, dude, that is the recipe. If you can get them kids to buy into playing defense and rebounding, you got a chance. You you have a chance every night, man. And that guy has those kids. They have bought into that system, and they're gonna be trouble for anybody that comes up against them because they bring it and they jump out the gym. You got 3 or 4 guys that's jumping out the gym. Most teams only have 1 or 2 at the most. Everybody comes in, man. They running them in and out. Like, where are all these guys from that play the same way, man? Outstanding system. Everybody's bought in. Houston they look really good. They actually look ahead of schedule. They look like somebody pulled the pie out and it wasn't ready in the middle, and we're gonna eat it anyway because Houston looks really good, man. They look really good.
Now, Alfred Sagoon, they kind of compare him to Paul Gasol. Do you see that in him?
Well, I see a little bit in it, but I don't think it's fair to either one of them because I think he's more talented than Powell. Powell was kind of his game was kind of finessey. Finessey that's the word, but there's nothing finesse about the Al-Sagoon game. The guy, he's solid. He's solid.
And who's the leader on that team if you had to pick him out?
The leader. I would have said Jeff Green, not Jeff Green, the kid Green. I would say he was the leader, one of the leaders on the team. But again, I don't know. I don't know if the coach is the leader on the team because, man, they young and they all trust and believe in each other, man. They have something special, man. They really do.
How far do you think their team can go? Because that's third or fourth right now.
Oh, no, they're not gonna win it far. Second round, they'll be out by second round. But it's just it's exciting to see. But they're gonna be a tough out. Beating the 4 in a row, you gonna come out there. They're gonna need oxygen and everything to get you out of there. Beat them 4 in a row because they up and down the floor. They jump out the gym. They blocking shots. They rebound. They're gonna be a tough out, man. They're gonna be a tough out.
And the guard, the point guard is Fred Van Vliet. Do you think that was a great addition for them as far as Houston goes?
Who you say? I didn't hear you.
Fred Van Vliet.
Oh man, he's solid. Fred is solid. Fred's not gonna do a whole lot. He's just a quiet glue guy. He hit a bucket here for a year. He get a steal there. He's solid. Fred was solid when in Vancouver, man. He's a solid guy.
Yeah, and plus another good guy in there is Steven Adams. Steven Adams has actually been helped in the center position, and he's just one of those guys that you can trust as far as being a leader and telling the kids exactly where they need to be and how they need to be. Well, and 10 years, he says a lot about him.
Well, then he knows what he's supposed to be out there doing. You're not gonna catch him running around doing it. He's gonna go right. He's gonna come in. He's gonna right to the boards. He come in. He know his job. He know what he's there for. And you need glue guys. He's another glue guy, man. And they solid. They are solid, man. They are solid. I think it's funny though. What makes a great team is everybody know what they're supposed to be doing and they do it. In Houston, man, they do a really good job of knowing where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing, and they do it. And when they don't, he rips into them when they don't. The coach. I think we knew he was real tough on the sisters. He's tough on his players too.
No, thanks.
So the player that I confused is Jeff Green. Jeff Green is the veteran that I was referring to earlier, not Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, I mentioned him. I thought that was who you were talking about. So Jeff Green, actually, when he was in Memphis, was really one of those amazing players you thought that was going to be in the stratosphere and abilities, but he never really reached that. I think more so the injuries kind of took him out a little bit, and then being traded so many times, it kind of takes a lot out of you. So I don't know, but I agree with you. Yeah, he's a Harrison Barnes type player in my.
So did you still want to cover the player legacy?
We might have to jump on that another time, man, because I'm actually running out of time. But if you guys are, had a great show, I appreciate y'all coming on. So let's go ahead and close it out, man. Ken, tell the people where they can find you at on these social media streets, man, and giving your social media handles.
Man, I appreciate y'all inviting me on, man. My voice loosened up throughout the show, so I appreciate you all bringing me out of my cave. Y'all can catch me at Big Ken on Fire, as it said on the screen, on all social media platforms. On Facebook, just type in Big Ken, I'll pop right up. Y'all can also catch me on the Fiyah Session. That's FIYAH Session on all social media platforms. Go to YouTube, Facebook, IG. We're there. Look us up, follow, like, subscribe. You'll enjoy it. We appreciate y'all.
Big deal. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yoggi, tell the people where they can find you on the social media streets. And again, thanks you and Ken for coming on, man. We need to get y'all on more often, man. I know y'all be busy in y'all lives and stuff, but hey, we get an opportunity to get y'all on. It's always a pleasure.
Well, man, first I want to thank you guys for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure, man. I get to talk what I really love, man. And that's sports, man. So I appreciate you guys, man. You can find me on these social media streets, man. At let me see, at YoggiLube.com. You can let me see at Yoggi Lou on all social media platforms. I also do Man Talk Mondays on Facebook Monday nights, and I'm like a Big Ken. Like, subscribe, and tell somebody. Tell somebody need to laugh. If you want to come and have a good time, come check me out. And again, man, just thank you guys for inviting me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. And again, Big Ken and Yoggi have great shows, man. You need to check them out. Subscribe, like you said. I like both the shows. I'm subscribed to both of them, so you guys do the same thing. Bob, what about you? Where can find you on the social media, my guy?
So up there, Swish for real. Subscribe. There's will be a link. You can subscribe. And you can find me at Boogey Bob. And now I kind of want to end the show with just prayers for the families that were in the plane crash in Washington. Some may not know, but there was skating competition in Wichita, Kansas over the weekend, and some of them were flying back. So some figure skaters that were on the national team and their coaches were on that plane. So prayers to the family that lost members on the plane and in the helicopter.
Thanks. I appreciate
And
you.
always Swish for real.
Swish for real. Again, guys, it was amazing. I appreciate y'all coming on. We'll tune y'all out next weekend. And have a great one, guys. Peace.
That's it, Pray. That's it.